Tonight, we seek the darkness. We explore the painful truth that sometimes the only way to fight a shadow is to risk becoming the shadow itself. This is the origin of Orímba, the man who was brilliant, fast, and brave, but whose human limits cost him everything, forcing him to make a forbidden bargain. Our journey takes us deep into the heart of ancient Africa, long before modern nations drew their foolish lines. We go to Zúr'Mekha Kingdom, a realm of fierce honor and noble traditions. It was a kingdom built on stone and wisdom, but one that lived under a constant, cold threat, the Odunkuru forest. Mortals were absolutely forbidden to step within it. For generations, the forest was not just feared, it was cursed, believed to be the domain of Aza'Rak, the demon god of shadows and wings. The Zur'Mekha people believed Aza'Rak was the master of all things nocturnal, able to command every single bat under the night sky. The kingdom's elders taught that to cross into Odunkuru was to surrender your soul to the deepest darkness.
Within this noble society lived Orímba, a young man from a powerful, loving extended family. His father, a respected elder, had 2 wives, who had birthed many daughters. But there were only 2 male heirs to carry the family name, Orímba and his stepbrother, Dekoro. Though they were from different mothers, their brotherhood was a legendary thing, a bond forged not just by blood, but by shared adventure. Orímba was the intellectual, the quick thinker, brilliant in strategy and swift on his feet. Dekoro was the sturdy anchor, the patient tracker. They spent their youth honing their skills together, moving through the wildlands outside the city walls. They were fast, brave, and destined for great things, but they were tragically, utterly human, with human weaknesses and human limits. It was their passion for the hunt that led to the first trespass. When Orímba was still a rash teenager, the pursuit of a rare prized game animal led him and Dekoro on a relentless chase that crossed the invisible line and carried them deep into the forbidden forest. Orímba, ahead of his brother, came across a massive, black mountain cave. Curiosity, the flaw of all bright young minds, seized him. He peered into the deep, echoing mouth of the cavern. And in that breath, he saw it, a shadow not made of physical smoke, but of pure, distilled night. A spiritual form with enormous, silent wings erupted from the darkness, launching straight toward the cave opening. Orímba screamed and stumbled back in terror. When he blinked, the shadow had vanished. He tried to tell Dekoro, but the moment he spoke the words, they realized the terrible truth. They were standing in the deepest part of the Odunkuru forest. Without speaking another word, they fled the cursed woods, their fear silencing the pounding of their hearts. The encounter was not finished. That very night, the fear bled into Orímba's dreams. He saw himself walking again, irresistibly drawn back to that cave. Inside, the rough stone had become a magnificent, dark chamber, the chilling throne room of Aza'Rak. The demon god sat, immense and still, draped in absolute shadow. Aza'Rak's voice was like rolling thunder in the deep earth, demanding to know why a mere mortal had trespassed. Orímba could only reply that he didn't know the path he was on. The demon god then surged forward, charging straight at him just as the shadow had in real life, enveloping the boy in cold, overwhelming terror. Orímba woke up instantly, trembling, his skin slick with sweat, relieved it was only a dream, but knowing it was a true encounter. Years of peace followed. Orímba grew into a young man, the dreams fading into a distant, frightening memory. But the night before the great tragedy, the dream returned, exactly as before. The cold cave, the dark chamber, the immobile god. This time, Aza'Rak did not question him. Instead, the demon god offered a gift, a dark power, the ability to see and strike within the deep shadows. The ultimate weapon against the night. Orímba, still holding to his human honor, rejected the dark promise. Aza'Rak did not get angry. The god simply laughed, a dry, chilling sound like falling rock, and told him with a certainty that froze his blood, "You will soon be back." Orímba woke and, unsettled, went out hunting alone to clear his head, unknowingly sparing himself the fate of his family. It happened in the brutal chaos of a single afternoon. The rival empire, fierce and merciless, struck the Zur'Mekha kingdom with shocking speed. Orímba returned home to a nightmare. The royal guard was broken, his village was raided, and his home was reduced to smoking rubble. He found his family, his father, his stepmother, his beloved sisters, all killed, scattered across the courtyard. But the cruelest blow came last. His brother, Doro, was gone, taken alive by the invaders. Orímba fell to his knees, clutching the dust, the tears that finally came washing away nothing but the grime on his hands. He cried out, not for their loss, but in raw, furious guilt. I was fast, I was brave, I was strong, but I was not here. I was too slow. I was too weak. The image of Aza'Rak, sitting in the shadows waiting, burned into his mind. His honor had failed him. His human limits had failed him. His family was destroyed, and his brother was a prisoner. There was only one path left to him. Driven by a rage that demanded a forbidden solution, he turned his back on the smoking ruins of his home and walked with purpose, his grief consuming him. He headed straight to the deep silence of the Odunkuru forest. He was going to claim the gift.
Driven by the fresh, furious guilt of the abandoned warrior, Orímba walked toward the black heart of the Odunkuru forest. He knew that against the might of the rival empire, he was nothing more than a brave man facing 10,000 blades. His human strength was utterly useless. To save his kingdom, he needed the impossible. He plunged into the silent, suffocating darkness of the forest until he reached the enormous mountain cave. There, in the same opening where he had first felt fear as a boy, Aza'Rak, the demon god of shadows, appeared. The god did not emerge as a terrible beast, but as a silent, humanoid figure made entirely of swirling, concentrated black bats. Aza'Rak laughed, a sound that echoed like the rattling of bone, and simply said, "I knew you would be back." Orímba did not beg. He demanded the power to fight the darkness that had consumed his family. Aza'Rak smiled, a widening gap in the black mist. The demon god then performed an ancient ritual, whispered only in the most forbidden of texts, the exchange of blood and flesh. It was a terrible, simple deal. Orímba would give up a piece of his essential humanity, his chance at a normal life, and in return, he would gain supernatural abilities. Orímba offered his lifelong service, a vow to protect the forest and uphold its sacred balance, and to forever fight the shadows of the world. As the magic took hold, something terrifying happened. Orímba's body seized. He fell into a temporary, partial death, a journey from which no man should return whole. When he awoke, he was fundamentally changed. Aza'Rak had granted him the power of the demon god, but with a horrifying price. He was given the power of 1,000 warriors, enhanced strength, superhuman speed, and senses sharp enough to hear a spider spin silk kilometers away. He was given the ability to command thousands of bats, turning the skies into his personal army. His most potent weapon, the ability to instantly transform into a living swarm of black bats, becoming an invisible mist one moment and a solid strike the next. He also received immortality and rapid night healing, making him nearly impossible to defeat in the dark. But the gifts came wrapped in a crushing curse: eternal isolation. He could no longer walk and relate to human beings for too long, as the dark energy would drain him. Worse, his sight was forever denied the sun. By day, he saw only blurring light, but by night, he saw with perfect, absolute clarity. He was now a creature of the night, forbidden the light of man. Orímba, now something more, something darker, did not hesitate. His first act, fueled by years of pent-up grief and this new, overwhelming power, was pure vengeance. In the middle of that very night, he dashed straight toward the camp of the rival kingdom. He did not walk. He flew as a silent, living swarm of black bats. The initial strike was devastating. Hundreds of thousands of bats flooded the enemy camp. The guards, mere mortal men, tried to resist, but the force was too great. The bats struck like black hammers, instantly overwhelming them. Then, the countless swarms reformed, gathering into a huge, massive circle that crashed down upon the core of the enemy soldiers, wiping them out in a terrifying, unseen instant. Not a single enemy survived the fury of the Shadow God's gift. Orímba reformed into his human shape, though the shadow now clung to him like a second skin. He found the captured people of Zúr'Mekha, including his stepbrother, Doro. Unbeknownst to him, the enemy's mighty warriors and archers were waiting in the main courtyard. As Orímba entered, they rained down arrows upon him. The steel pierced his flesh all over his body, but to their horror, he did not fall. He simply transformed again. 1,000 bats launched from his bleeding form, sending every arrow back to the place it came from. The surviving warriors attacked, but they were no match for his superhuman strength and inhuman speed. Orímba defeated them all, utterly destroying the rival kingdom's military power and leaving the camp in ruins. The captured people were free. As they looked upon the man who had just used a dark god's power to save them, they did not see a curse. They saw a savior who stood against their enemies.
As the people joyfully started their long walk back to Zur'Mekha, the first hint of dawn, the breaking of day, started to streak the horizon. In that instant, Orímba felt the light like a consuming fire. He transformed back into 1,000 bats, flying away from the daylight and away from the returning crowd, heading back toward the shadows of his kingdom. The people returned home and celebrated him as a man turned god. Orímba became Orímba the Shadowwing, a guardian spirit feared by every enemy and worshipped by the kingdom's people. But Orímba knew the terrible truth. The price was already being paid. By day, he was forced to hide deep within the Odenkuru forest, a prisoner of the darkness he sought to control. By night, he emerged as a black mist, a silent, shape-shifting protector, guarding his people. The curse of isolation was absolute. He had to keep his distance even from Doro, the only family he had left. The sorrow was immense, but Orímba believed it was worth it. His new life was the necessary price for his cowardice, the ultimate sacrifice to avenge his family and protect his remaining kingdom. The great vengeance against the rival empire was complete, but for Orímba the Shadowwing, the war against darkness had only just begun. The kingdom of Zúr'Mekha was safe, but their savior was utterly alone, a prisoner of the night he now commanded. The people of Zúr'Mekha knew the truth. They had been saved by a man who had become a god, a divine, terrifying force born of their greatest fear. They did not forget the sacrifice. They built a towering, magnificent bat-shaped shrine on the edge of the Odenkuru forest, where they left offerings of food and respect for the guardian who could never walk among them. Orímba accepted the isolation. By day, he hid in the deepest recesses of the cursed woods, healing and waiting. By night, he was a black mist, ensuring peace. He taught himself to hear every sound, every whisper of crime in the kingdom, using his enhanced senses to strike with surgical precision. He was the silent, terrifying justice that ruled the night, ensuring that no innocent heart in Zúr'Mekha would ever again feel the helplessness he felt when his family fell.
As the centuries passed, the stability of Zúr'Mekha became legendary. Traders and travelers wrote about the city of the night, telling impossible tales of the protector who haunted their borders. Strangers spoke of seeing a man turning into flying creatures, a swarm of bats that delivered justice, an early, powerful interpretation of a superhuman being. These fragmented stories traveled across the land and then the sea, passed down through generations of oral history. The Demon God Aza'Rak became a monstrous, animalistic symbol of fear. Orímba the Shadowwing, the brave nobleman who used his vast resources and deadly skill to fight crime, became a dark, human figure driven by the vow made in a tragic alley. Over time, storytellers changed the name, turning the powerful, sacred name of Orímba, the Bat King, into something simpler, something that fit the hurried pace of the modern age. And so, the hero who haunts the shadowed skyline of our modern cities is not a new creation. He is the direct, haunting legacy of the broken nobleman of Zúr'Mekha. He is the man who wields technology instead of magic, but is driven by the exact same inescapable trauma. He is the ultimate vigilante who uses his immense wealth as a tool, who fears the sun, and who chooses to live in isolation to serve the justice that failed him as a child. Orímba's story is the true, hidden truth of Batman, that the hero is born not of divine strength, but of the most profound human sorrow. He is the proof that when your human strength fails, and you are consumed by the burning memory of loss, you will risk anything, even your very soul, to ensure the darkness never wins again. Ends up becoming the darkness. He is the eternal answer to the question, what is the price of vengeance, and what is the cost of absolute justice?